This is the story of a man who spent his life helping everyone around him, yet never stopped to care for himself. Until one day, life forced him to slow down and taught him a lesson he would never forget. The rain had just stopped when Samar lifted the heavy basket from the muddy ground. His back ached, but he smiled anyway. The old woman standing by the broken fence thanked him softly, and he nodded, pretending not to feel the pain shooting through his shoulders. That was Samar, the man who always showed up when someone needed help. If a roof leaked, he climbed up. If a child was sick, he ran for herbs. He never said no, not once. The people of Ravena village loved him. They said he had a golden heart. Yet, when the sun set and the streets grew quiet, Samar walked home alone to a small hut with broken windows and a roof that leaked worse than anyone else's. He would light his tiny lamp, sit on the floor, and whisper, "Maybe tomorrow I'll fix this. Maybe." But tomorrow always belonged to someone else's problem. One evening, as the wind howled through the cracks of his walls, Samar sat staring at the flame of his lamp. He felt something heavy inside him, not just tiredness, but emptiness. His hands trembled as he whispered to himself, "Why do I feel so alone when everyone says they love me?" Still, the next morning, he was out again, helping, fixing, giving, smiling. His body was weak, but his heart refused to rest. Until one night, while carrying wood for a neighbor, his legs suddenly gave way. The basket fell, the world spun, he collapsed on the wet ground. Darkness swallowed him. When Samar opened his eyes, he was lying on his bed. His head throbbed. A few villagers stood by, whispering. Someone said, "He worked himself sick." Another voice added, "He always helps others, but who helps him?" Days passed before Samar could stand again. His body felt lighter, but his spirit felt empty. He sat by his window, watching the morning light pour through the broken roof. Then, one day, a traveler arrived in the village, an old monk with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He had heard about Samar, the man who helped everyone. He came quietly, carrying only a walking stick and a small bag. When he entered Samar's hut, he looked around at the cracked walls and sighed softly. "You have helped many," the monk said. "But tell me, my son, who helps you?" Samar smiled weakly. "It doesn't matter. As long as others are happy, I am fine." The monk sat beside him and shook his head slowly. "You think you are being kind, but you are forgetting something very important." Samar looked puzzled. "Forgetting what?" The monk pointed to the dying lamp beside the bed. "That," he said softly. "You have been lighting everyone's lamps, while your own is fading." For the first time, Samar didn't know what to say. His eyes filled with tears. He looked at the lamp, flickering, weak, struggling to stay alive. And he saw himself in it. That night, he couldn't sleep. He thought about all the roofs he had repaired, all the meals he had shared, all the tired nights he spent fixing someone else's problem while ignoring his own. He looked around his hut and whispered, "I gave everything, but I forgot myself." The next morning, when the villagers came asking for help, Samar smiled and said softly, "Not today. Today, I need to fix something of my own." They were surprised. Samar had never said no before. But he closed his door gently and began to sweep his floor. The broom felt strange in his hands, but the sound of dust moving away felt peaceful. He patched his walls, he fixed his roof, he washed his clothes and cooked a real meal. He even sat outside, feeling the sun on his face, something he hadn't done in years. For the first time, Samar wasn't running. He was simply being. At first, the villagers whispered. Samar has changed, they said. He doesn't help like before. But soon they noticed something different about him. His eyes looked brighter. His steps were stronger. When he spoke, his voice was calm and full of peace. One afternoon, the monk returned. He saw Samar repairing a flower pot by his window. "You've been busy," the monk smiled. Samar looked up and nodded. "Yes, teacher. I've been fixing more than just my home." The monk's eyes softened. "And how do you feel?" Samar looked toward the sky, where the sun painted the clouds gold. "I feel alive," he said quietly. "Before I gave from an empty heart. Now I give from one that is full." From that day on, Samar still helped others, but he rested when he needed to. He laughed more. He took time to eat, to pray, to breathe. Slowly, the village began to follow his example. People started caring for themselves too, realizing that love begins with self-kindness. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Samar stood by the river, watching his reflection on the water. He smiled and whispered, "You cannot pour from an empty cup." The wind carried his words gently across the quiet fields of Ravena, a reminder to everyone who heard them. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for others is to remember yourself. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to remember. Kindness begins with you, and if it spoke to you, share it with someone who gives too much. They might need this reminder today.